Okay, it looks like we're live. I'm not sure, but it does look like we're live. I'm going to turn this around a bit so that I'm centered on the screen. How is everybody? If there is anybody here, of course, there are 5 people here according to my stats. I have coffee. See, coffee. A bit of a slow start today. I was a little bit tired, but I've caffeinated a little bit and lots of things to talk about on the live stream, movie stuff mostly. But yeah, can anybody just tell me whether the sound and the video are working? Because we had that one a few live streams ago where the audio wasn't working and I totally shat myself. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate that, mate. Yeah, it's a fairly cold morning here. But the good news is the skies are getting lighter when I start the live streams. So it does mean, hi Dick, how you doing? Yeah, it does mean that the seasons are changing. Thank you, Rams. I appreciate that too. And FG, hi. Yeah, so lots of stuff to talk about. As some of you know, I've started doing Art House to August where I'm watching 31, Carol says hi to, I'm watching 31 art house movies in the month of August. And to be honest with you, it's going well. It is going well. It's now where I am the 4th of August, and I've watched 4 movies so far. Hey, looks like I don't have a thumb. Yep. So, hi, Dealey. Yeah, so 4 movies so far. I've watched La Ventura, the Michelangelo Antonioni film, which blew me away. And I'll talk about that further in another video. I did watch 8.5, Fellini's 8.5, which I always love. I watched Eating Raoul, the Paul Bartel comedy, because not all art house films are serious. So I watched Eating Raoul, and I watched a 4th one, which, what was the 4th one I watched? Well, I have to get my letterboxd up because it is early in the morning. Let's have a look here. Scroll down endlessly because there are a lot of films this year. Band of Outsiders, Bon Depart. I watched that last night. So that was fun. Ramsar. Wow, I appreciate that. I've got something special for the donations via Super Chat. You ready for your reward, Ramsar? I've got the fart gun out. Every time there's a Super Chat, the fart gun comes out. Hi, Evil Pixie. How you doing? Yep, so caffeinating. I've got to go out after the live stream. We're going out to visit the family across the town, but good. Hi, Peter. How you doing? No, I'm not a sensei. I'm as much a student as anything. All I'm doing is sharing the love. But yeah, so I've seen 4 movies. Bon Depart I love, particularly a dance sequence. I wish I could dance like that. And La Ventura blew me away. We'll talk a little bit about La Ventura. If you haven't seen it, D-Lee says duck gun. Could be. La Ventura, the Antonioni film, taught me a lot about movies. At this late date, I'm learning stuff about movies. And for me, that movie taught me that there are different movie languages and movie cultures, and La Ventura doesn't do the things you expect in a movie. There's a mystery where a girl disappears on an island, and the mystery never gets solved. And the mystery isn't the important part of the film. I thought Anna, the woman who went missing, was a bit of a pill anyway. So, but the movie told me that it basically reprogrammed my brain for cinema, and I wasn't expecting that. And I didn't watch another movie for a day and a half after I watched La Ventura because I wanted that film to just sit with me for a little bit. And it's not often you get that kind of thing. Sometimes you do, where a movie has a profound effect on you and you just sit with it for a while. It's like the first time I saw Tokyo Story, and I sat with that one for 2 days and I didn't watch another movie because I just wanted to process that movie. And La Ventura had the same reaction, so that was fantastic. Dick says, Carol's just let me know when the fart gun comes on. When the fart gun comes on. Yep, fart guns. I think I'm a little bit low, so let's see if I can tilt that up. Yeah, it's a little bit better, but not much. We'll see how we go. What's the weather like where you guys are, by the way? Yeah, I forgot about the fart gun because I've had the fart gun here in the man cave for years, and it's been sitting over there. And I just thought I'll bring out the fart gun. Beautiful design too. I love this fart gun. I think it's to do with a Minions movie or something like that. Might not be. Sunny and cooler in Massachusetts, says FG. Okay, fair enough. Didn't get to Massachusetts when I was over there. Got to New York City and I got to New Jersey, but I didn't get to Massachusetts. By the way, no politics this time around. We're going to totally ignore the madness of King Donald and just have a good time. Too dark to tell here in Adelaide, Peter. Yeah, you can ask your smart speaker, mate. Nice weather in Connecticut, 80 degrees and low humidity. 80 degrees, what's that? About 200 Fahrenheit? William says, what's going on? What's going on, William, is I've got the fart gun. If I get a super chat, I shoot off the fart gun. That's all that's happened, really. D. Lee says, had the same reaction when I saw The Passion of Joan of Arc. Didn't watch another film for about a week afterwards. Yeah, I love the fact that movies can do that to us. That a really, really good film or a really, really different film can rewire your head, and you really do have to process it. I think that's a nice thing to have. And I don't know whether everybody has that reaction or not, but me as a cinephile, I mean, I'm going to put that tag on myself. I've got that ability for movies to just blow my brains out in the best possible way. And I love it when that happens. And it's not a predictable thing. You can't go around and look at your shelves and go, I'm going to watch that movie. It's going to blow my brains out. It doesn't happen like that. It happens unexpectedly. And it happens because you're in the right moment of your life for that to happen. It's like if you watch another Fellini movie, if you watch La Dolce Vita, I watch it every 2 or 3 years. And every time I'm a slightly different person because, of course, we do evolve over time, hopefully. And every time I watch La Dolce Vita, I see different things in it, and it affects me differently. And I love having films like that. I think this is going to be a great month for me with the art house films. I'm going to watch other films as well, but I promised myself I've got to watch 31 art house films, which means I've got 27 to go. I've already got the next few lined up, and they're pretty good. And I've got one that when I'm getting a little bit jaded, I can watch a particular art house film. It's going to be Black Orpheus, and that will reset things for me because it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're watching 31 films or any particular type in a month, it's actually more difficult to do than you might think. Ramzar says 84 degrees Fahrenheit in overcast, humid West Los Angeles. Eating a mushroom pizza with coffee. Cool. Hi, Cold of Jay. How you doing? Yeah. William says someone recently reacted to Michael Mann's Insider. There are many Al Pacino being passionate movies, but The Insider may be Pacino's best. Lots to think about. Yeah, I can see that. Michael Mann, though, is just so good at sucking people in. Okay, we'll get on to the list because I've got a slight list here of things to talk about. The thumbnail I had, I think I've changed the thumbnail, but the thumbnail I had for the live stream was Pedro Pascal. Now, there's this thing going around about Pedro Pascal at the moment. Of course, he's playing Reed Richards in Fantastic Four First Steps. And on the red carpet, and there are many red carpets when you're doing this kind of movie, people were complaining because he was clinging to his co-star, Vanessa Kirby. And I found out why. And it's not what you think. He's not sleazing onto her. Pascal has an anxiety disorder, like a severe anxiety disorder in public places. Yeah, he can do a movie because a movie set is contained, even if it is a large movie set. But he has an anxiety disorder, and he grounds himself by holding on to someone. And I can understand that because just this week, and in fact, it was the same day I did one of my videos this week, for 6 o'clock in the morning, I had a profound complex PTSD reaction. All the shit from my childhood came back to haunt me all at once. And it really messed up most of my day. I had no energy. I didn't want to do anything. I was profoundly sad. And it was just something monstrous, but I punched through later in the day and got the video done. And the video's done quite well. The videos that I struggle with are the ones that do quite well. So I'm going to give props to Pedro Pascal. He's become an A-list actor. He's becoming someone who can make movies land. But he is somebody who does have a very, very strong disorder, and all credit to him. And you know, I will support people who are going through struggles. And it's yet another thing I like about Pedro Pascal. So I just thought I'd put that out there, that sometimes people are more complex, particularly people who have a high profile, are more complex than we expect, and are doing things tough in ways that we would never have anticipated. Hi, Doug. How you doing? Time Traveler says, I want to see a happy science fiction film. They're always so dark now. Yeah. I mean, dystopias I'm over dystopias. I really am. I think the fact that we lived through one, even just things like the pandemic, makes us less in love with the idea of dystopias. And yes, that's Star Trek, as William says, is utopian, or at the very least an aspiration to utopia. And that's why it is so attractive to so many people. Series and franchises that are all about war bore the shit out of me. And we all know the obvious one. But yeah, absolutely. Happy one. Euler Greg, hi, how you doing? Time Traveler says the Trek films are dark. Some are, but Strange New Worlds, the new series, I'm a big fan of that. I like it a lot. I like the recasting of some of the characters, but I also like the heritage characters that are in it. It just works for me. Doug says, watch Cosmic Monsters and loved it. Yeah, it's a weird film with so much packed into it. Tom says, I like Pedro Pascal in the new Fantastic Four movie. Watched it twice on the big screen, second time in IMAX. To be honest with you, I've only seen one thing in IMAX, and it was like a documentary. I really should go to an IMAX cinema and watch something. Kind of Jay said, I really love the music episode of Paleo Cinema. Do you think you might do something equivalent to that on YouTube? To be honest with you, no, because YouTube would demonetize the video in an instant, and it would jeopardize the channel itself because of copyright issues. I can get away with that shit on podcasts because I'm hosting the podcast on a platform that I pay money for. But you can't do that effectively on YouTube unless you want to give all the money to the people who own the copyright to the music, and whoever gets in first gets that money. So there's no benefit to me doing that at all, and that's the problem. It really is something I don't like. I would love to be able to do a whole music episode about the coolest movie music I know on the channel, but it's just not possible. Ramsey said, worst Star Trek movie came out in 2025, Star Trek Section 31. Yeah, it's bad. And it's not even entertainingly bad. They had the rights to do something with Michelle Yeoh, and she suddenly won an Oscar. And so they decided to make it into a feature film rather than a short streaming series or a one-off streaming thing. And it died in the ass because they re-geared it for that. And they just wanted to feature Michelle Yeoh in a Star Trek thing because they had the rights to do it. And they had the contract signed. Corporate suits, that's what it's all about, corporate suits. And those bastards will always screw things up. Is there enough light on my face in this? Because I've got the lights tuned down a little bit because they shine in my eyes otherwise. Fans of Pedro Pascal call themselves Pedrophiles. Not a good choice, to be honest with you. I wouldn't call myself that. I do like Pedro Pascal and I like the work he does, but I would never use that term. And also, he's got a trans sister and he supports his sister. So good on Pedro. So we can cross Pedro off the list. Is somebody who has trouble and is doing really well. Tom says the lighting's fine. That's good, because I've got a ring light up here because eventually the sunlight comes through and it's good enough for the camera. But until then, I've got a ring light up there, and it's slightly annoying if I have it turned up too high. Dick says everything looks fine, handsome as ever. If you got a filter on your screen, I'm lit aesthetically, says Peter. No worries. Okay, cool. Got to get the beard trimmed. It's getting scraggy as fuck. But yeah. So lots of interesting stuff happening in the world, and I may actually go out. I know in the UK they have CEX, which is a place where you can get secondhand DVDs, Blu-rays, etc. There's a CEX I'm heading towards today. I'm going to see what they've got. They don't often have really cool stuff. And to be honest with you, the 4Ks we get in Australia tend to be prosaic movies for the most part. The obvious ones like the Fast and Furious series or Star Wars and stuff like that. We're going to see what I can get. Name some new filmmakers in Australia. Anyone doing anything innovative? Everyone is. I mean, there's the Philippou brothers who did Talk to Me. There's the Sperry brothers who've been around for a couple of decades now and are doing really interesting stuff. There's Ivan Sen. There's Leah Purcell. Just anybody who's getting any kind of profile in Australian cinema, apart from Baz Luhrmann, who's a hack, is worth checking out. Jim says CEX is extremely expensive recently. Yeah, Dealey, Adam and Elliot. CEX extremely expensive. That's a bit of a shame. Here, it's kind of okay. I picked up a couple of things for like $6 that I just wanted on Blu-ray and did okay with that. So it's one of those things where you got to cherry pick. The CEX has got some weird pricing because there are things on 4K at CEX and I go, well, no, because JB Hi-Fi has 30% off their 4Ks and they're about $3 or $4 cheaper than yours. Why would I buy a second-hand one? Ramzar said, what's the Fantastic Four first steps in IMAX cinema? Of the 3 superheroes I watched in 2025, I'd rank them all B+: Superman, the Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts. I enjoyed them all, but then I'm a locked-in superhero movie fan. Brian Lindsay says, some celebs take strange turns. Charlton Heston was marching for civil rights with Mel K, but ended his days as a far-right gun nut and anti-civil rights. I met Charlton Heston at a book signing, and I shook his hand. So, that hand shook the hand part of the Red Sea. He was very polite, but his wig was very obvious. Dick says, trouble with most CX stores here in the UK is the overwhelming BO smell. Ours are okay. Ours are fragrant, but they're only fairly new. Actually, there's 2 of them out where I'm going after I do the live stream. And I'm just wondering whether I can hit the one in Ringwood as well. I'll talk it over with Sal, who is going to be here soon and who is going to moderate the live stream, but she's not quite here yet. Time Traveler says, can you tell us what recording and editing software I've been using? Yeah, I can do that. My camera that I use most of the time is my DJI Osmo Pocket, and I'll do a bit of show and tell for you. This is a bit of in-house, but I've got the Osmo Pocket, and I've got my little DJI mic, which is great. But the Osmo Pocket is a fantastic little camera. See, there's the screen. But it's very versatile. I can put it on a stand here and do the stuff at home. I can do it for my travel vlogs. But it does 4K up to 60 FPS, which is great. And good battery life. It's the vlogging camera at the moment. People swear by this one, and so do I. So that's what I use for the recording. Now, because I record at 4K 30 frames per second, first off, you need a decent computer. You need a computer with a really good graphics card. Fortunately, I've got that. And the software I use is Filmora, because I got on Filmora early, and they had a deal once upon a time where you get unlimited updates forever if you bought Filmora back about 5 years ago. They've now got a monthly subscription process with it, but it's software I know. It's software I can use really well. It gets constant updates, and because I'm a legacy owner of the software, I get the updates, and it runs really well, and I'm very happy with that. As far as mics and that, I just use the mic on the Osmo Pocket, the little wireless mic, and it does very well. It synchronizes incredibly well with the video stream. Tom says, in the Fantastic Four movie, the mole man asked to be called Mr. Elder. Was that a tip ever had to Will Elder? I don't know, but I know that is the canonical name for the character. Carol says the horrible music they played is always far too loud at CX. Colin J says, cool camera. Dick says, funky looking little camera. It's so great and so portable. And in fact, one of the things I'm getting for the camera is there's a neck strap you can have where you can hang the camera off around your neck. So when I'm doing the walking vlogs, I'll be able to do it hands-free. And that cost me like $40. So I'm waiting for that to come through, and that's going to do things really well. So there is that. And I think Sal is up and running. Ramsar said, watched Final Destination Bloodlines. Was surprised how entertaining morbid it was, with so many innovative and gory ways to die. That's the franchise with Final Destination. It is basically wait for the deaths. I'm going to be back in a second. I'm going to leave the camera for a second, and I'll be back. Good morning, middle-aged geek girl. And she can chat with you while I'm away. I'll be back in a second.
Hello, everyone. I've come to take over. It reminds me of those, I think it's the Oscars when you have to have the seat fillers. So I'm Terry Seat Filler, and I don't do this, so I don't know where I'm supposed to be looking. I'm assuming at the camera there. So how is everybody? I know we've been through this. I've just showered. That's why I'm looking wet. And run into the room. Good morning, everybody. Well, this is hard. Terry has a hard job. So good morning, Time Traveller and Dick Powers and D. Lee and FG and Peter. Karagiris? Did I say that right? Anyway, he's back now, so I stop talking about what we were talking about. Don't tell him about the gossip, okay? Shh.
Get out. Thanks, Mum.
I was being a seat filler like an Oscar.
There we go. My seat filler has filled the seat. Yeah, so she's appeared and she's featured. Let me just adjust this camera. This camera's a lot harder to adjust than, and it's got random on me. Stop that. Let's see if it responds to gestures. I think that's going to be as good as it gets. Paul says, hi, Terry, watching from the UK. Found charity shops need to be the best place to find old films and TV series. Absolutely. Dick finds some incredible stuff, and that fucking camera, and puts it on his channel. Post a link to your channel, Dick, if you could, because you find the best stuff and find it for ridiculous prices. And that camera is going totally random on me. Yeah, Sal's got a nice jumper. She always wears the best jumpers too. But yeah, so what were we talking about? Dick says, Let's Travel video is pretty cool, especially those painted figures. Yeah, I like Geelong. I didn't get the breakfast this time around, to be honest with you. I was going to get something to eat, but I'd already eaten. But the breakfast down at the Sailors Rest in Geelong are fantastic. And we like going down there with friends. But yeah, charity shops here are very, very hit and miss. There's just, they've silted up with rubbish. And there's like Judd Apatow movies and 55 copies of Melrose Place and all that kind of shit. And all the stuff I'm not interested in. I know there are collectors who go out and scoop things up and find better things than I do. But I do want to do a little bit of prowling around today while we're on the other side of town, see what I can find. Middle-aged Geek said, I've thought of doing a live stream on my channel, but I really don't think I could manage it. Yes, you could. I'll even lend you the camera. You could do a live stream and you'd be brilliant at it. Ever have the urge to make a little art film of my own, maybe 90-second film? Not really. It's not my skill set. And also, I'm not organised enough for that kind of thing. I'm just barely organised enough to get 4 videos out a week. And a lot of that's last minute. A lot of that is, oh shit, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I've got to get a video out by 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. I roughly know what I'm going to talk about, but bam, I do it. But I'm very aware of my skill sets and my ability to gather together a bunch of people to do something. And I have a lot of respect for people who can do that. But I'm seriously disorganized. And at this stage of life, I'm comfortable with that. I'm in a situation where that's not an impediment to me doing things in life. But yeah, for the most part, no. Time Traveller says, organized like you, but no. Peter says, Malika Salvo has 20 copies of Luhrmann's Australia going nowhere. Yeah, Baz Luhrmann movies turn up in op shops a lot. And I like the fact that they do. Middle-aged Guru says, yes, I'm the master of the last minute. Oddly enough, those videos always do the best. Yeah, my last minute videos, sometimes, not always. But I'm really struggling. I mean, the day I had my anxiety attack, I had to get a video out. And that video's done well. So and even though I had zero energy and zero, I thought ability to do it, I got it done. And those videos do hit sometimes. It's amazing that they do. And the ones where I meticulously research and do all the stuff and I've got good energy and good vibes and I'm doing fine, sometimes they don't do as well. It's just a weird part of this business. There we go. If people want the link to Dick's channel, there it is. It's Dick's Powers 1763. Ramsar said, a man's got to know his limitations. I don't see them as limitations. I just see them as being different. I mean, I think if you start talking about limitations when you don't have a skill set, I don't think that's fair. I've got things that I can do that other people can't. I can throw a knife into a fence and make it hit 9 times out of 10. I can do all sorts of things like that, but it's a different skill set. And I have a lot of good skill sets I'm very comfortable with that I've learned a lot. There you go, Dick. Middle-aged Geek Girls put the full URL for your channel there. Kubrick had Leon Vitali to do a lot of his organising for him. See, if I had somebody to do my organising for me, and Sal's not going to do it because she's got her own gigs and her own stuff to do, I could probably get stuff done. I could probably get my thumbnails done earlier than 10:30 at night, but that's it. Hi, Mr. Shannon. I saw him late. Had a loony chasing me down the street with a blue gun. You've been here the whole time. You look like you. Ha, ha, ha. There we go. Carol tried to post a link, but it didn't work. Yep. Sally says she will help, but for a price. I want a professional if I'm getting help. I don't want some rank amateur like you, Sal. That's going to piss her off. Time to caffeinate some more. But yeah, what else we got? Has anybody been following this change we've got to James Bond? Because Amazon now have the rights to do James Bond movies, and they're going to be doing them. And they've got Denis Villeneuve to direct the next one, which I'm okay with. I like Denis Villeneuve as a director. I think he's got an incredible visual imagination. He's very good with genre stuff. But they've also worked out that they're getting Stephen Knight to write the script. Stephen Knight is the guy who wrote Peaky Blinders, amongst other things. And he's doing the 007 script, and he said it's going to be gritty as fuck. And I'm okay with that. I want to see what they do. I think you can hang on to legacy ways of doing certain franchises and be pessimistic about change. But I want to see what they do with James Bond. I want to see where they go with this. I want to see who they get. As long as they don't get some soppy rich guy lovey, like some received pronunciation wanker from Essex. I want them to get a working class James Bond, because all the best James Bonds have been working class actors. Daniel Craig, Sean Connery. You need to have a gritty working class actor, not some posh toff. And the chat seems to have frozen. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what Amazon, yes, it is Bezos, and we know he's an evil prick. But the fact that James Bond movies are being made by a James Bond villain is an irony that's not eluded me. Tom Science says, Daniel Craig tough as nails, and he's such a flexible actor. I want to see Queer, the movie he made based on the William Burroughs novel. I haven't seen that yet, but I want to see it. I can see that this month because it's an art house film. Yeah, I'll add that to the list. Boomer Doug says, I'm pretty happy with Stephen Knight. His SAS Rogue Hero series is excellent. There you go. Carol said, we had a garage safari yard sale locally to us today. Richard found a few new films for 25p each. Geez, that's only like $55 Australian. Good haul. Yeah, I really should do some garage sales at some stage, but again, Saturday mornings I'm otherwise engaged usually. What I do want to do is there's a market, kind of like the Laverton market that I've been to on the other channel, down in Geelong on a Sunday. And I really should get my ducks lined up and go down there, because I'm fairly sure they've got someone selling secondhand media. Ramsar said, what's made in England, the films of Powell and Pressburger again, but lots of pauses for research, various aspects. Superb. It is. I've seen that, and it is great. And I just anything that gives Powell and Pressburger some love is fantastic. There is a Powell and Pressburger box set that Imprint are bringing out, and I'm really hoping they send me a review copy of it, because it's got all the heavy hitters in it. Life and Death of Colonel Blimp and things like that. And they do say it's volume 1. So I'm expecting volume 2 to have really interesting stuff like I Know Where I'm Going and films like that in it. But volume 1's coming out from Imprint here in Australia. And I am so chuffed by that. I think it's about time things like that were recognised and acknowledged and loved a lot more than they are. I've got the movies, and other things. I've got Criterion edition of Colonel Blimp. I've got a Blu-ray of Thief of Baghdad, for instance. But a box set would be really, really sweet to have. D. Lee says, Peaky Blinders, a.k.a. Leaky Blenders, the TV series that took its cues from historical accuracy from Zack Snyder's 300. Yeah, you can make that allowance on there, D. Lee. We've got a barbershop called something like Peaky Barbers nearby, which I went to for a while, but the music was too loud. KN says, I don't think the James Bond character could ever be considered working class. He's a product of private schools and the old boys network. Yeah, I agree, but the actors should be working class because posh actors are soft as fuck. But working class actors have that innate texture that really lands. I mean, Connery being the big example, Daniel Craig being the example, and even to a much lesser extent, Pierce Brosnan. Working class actors, they're the ones that do best. Roger Moore was working class, but he received pronunciation and toff very quickly early in his career. And he had the muscle tone of a chipolata. But yeah, I mean, there is that bias of Ian Fleming as well, being a posh guy. Ken says, Danny Dyer is a new Bond. No, but I believe he's got a new movie out that's pretty good, or a series or something. Not a guy I've particularly engaged with because he hasn't really hit here in Australia, but I can see what he does. Carol says, what is it with shops playing music super loud? CX and HMV both play death metal or similar stupid volumes to put us off going in. The reason is that the staff there wanted that. It's not actually a policy, but the staff want to play that music the way it is. Ramsey says, after the Powell Pressburger documentary, I purchased The Tales of Hoffman on Blu-ray. I've never watched it. Scorsese is so effusive about Powell and Pressburger, especially Powell. Tales of Hoffman's a great watch. If you haven't seen it, you really should. And also, Michael Powell, later in his life, helped Scorsese through his cocaine addiction and lived with Scorsese for a time. And his wife, Thelma Schumacher, was Scorsese's editor for a very long time. Can hear lots of birds in the background, says Dick. Okay. Yeah, there are a few around. It is that time of the morning. Carol says, most of my shopping's done with headphones on, unless I'm with Richard, of course. Yeah, I mean, I can do shopping with my earbuds in and listening to music. And it's fun. D-Lee says, Humphrey Bogart was actually from a posh background in real life, but different. It's different for Americans. Yeah. I saw a really rare Bogart movie yesterday, which isn't part of my art house movies. There's a movie called Dead End, which has the Dead End kids, the Bowery Boys in it, and Joel McRae and Sylvia Sidney. I watched that yesterday, and that's pretty damn good. And this is like a 1937, fairly early Bogart role where he plays a really tough gangster, and it works. Birds are from the jungle background. We don't have a jungle here. We're in the Werribee Plains. We're in a volcanic plain here. Paul has managed to pick up the Powell and Pressburger collection and the David Lean collection on DVD for £1 each. What's the best find I've had? Mostly books rather than movies. Haven't picked up anything really cheap, really well. You know, I filled out bits of my collection and things like that, but the stuff I get is stuff on sale, new, that I really enjoy. Carol says, having the headphones on is handy for ignoring pushy salespeople trying to sign you up for stuff. I see that. Bogart was posh, says ME, but got kicked out of prep school. Yeah, well, prep schools are full of bullshit. Peter says, love Dead End. It was weird to see Bogart as a nasty bad guy. Yeah, there's a great scene where he comes back after years of hiding from the cops. And he meets his mum, played by Marjorie Main, who was Ma Kettle in the Pa and Ma Kettle things. And there's a really tough scene there where his mother rejects him and says, you're a tramp, you're a piece of rubbish, go away. And Bogart and Marjorie Main play that scene really powerfully. And it shows the vulnerability of this tough gangster. And I really love that scene. Carol says, best find for me was a book I really wanted. It's over £250 secondhand. Richard found one for £6 in charity shops. Was so happy. Yeah. Sometimes you find things like that. The thing people are finding here in op shops that's really great for them is there's a whole bunch of ceramics and glassware, like high quality, bespoke ceramics and glassware, are turning up in op shops because people don't know what they are. And then other people will come around and see that they're made in Venice or something like that. And on the op shop groups that I'm on Facebook, there are people just hitting with some really strikingly beautiful glassware and ceramics. Middle-aged geek girl says, tea acts as a shield for me when we walk past the stalls of people wanting to sign you up for charities. Those people are so invasive of your personal space. Yeah, it's got to be an instinct where I just kind of intercede between her and those people because it does trigger her anxieties. Let's see what else I've got on the list here because I do have a list. Richard Linklater is doing a new movie called Nouvelle Vague, which is about the making of Jean-Luc Godard's Breathless, with an actor playing Jean-Paul Belmondo and an actress playing Jean Seberg. I'm looking forward to that. It looks like it will be fun, and it's coming out on Netflix in November. So I'm interested to see Richard Linklater's take on the making of Breathless, because I'm very French New Wave. I just want to see what he does with it. The stills I've seen from it look pretty accurate and pretty cool. So we'll just see what comes out of that. But again, it's, in a sense, cinema eating itself and telling its stories about itself. But in this case, I'll allow it. KN says, there's no one giving my bank details to some stranger on the street. Yeah, I see your point there, though. Banks are spending a lot of money to stop people getting ripped off these days. Not always successfully. In fact, I had a thing where I had a month's trial of a thumbnail generating thing, and they said pay $1, you get the first month, then you could sign on for an ongoing contract if you want to. They took the money out of my bank account after I gave them the $1 US for the month's trial, and I cancelled it all immediately and told them off and tried to get them to give the money back, and they didn't, but my bank did, and it's now cancelled, fortunately. There's based in Abu Dhabi, which I'm not going to make any racist comments about that, but I think they're based in Abu Dhabi because the laws, the consumer protection laws, are very loose there. Carol says, yes, Sally, I agree. I work from home and had to get my phone listed as preferential number to stop cold calls and to sign at our door. Otherwise, I get calls and idiots knocking to sell stuff. Plus, lots of them are scammers. We get real estate agents knocking on our door, and I have no problem just telling them to piss off and lose our lose our address, because they're trying to get us to sell our house. We live in it. We're not going to sell it. We're not going to get on the real estate ladder and end up with 15 rental properties so that other people can't afford to buy a home. They piss me off enormously. And they come to your door, or they call my mobile number. Just so much spam with that stuff. And they're all local, but go away. If I want you, I will call you, or I will go to your office. But just go the fuck away. And they usually do this stuff when I'm busy with other things, like I'm doing something for the channel and I'm in the zone of researching and writing notes and doing all those kind of things. And then some asshole in a suit knocks on the door and asks me if I want to sell a house or if I want to get an evaluation. They miff me. Yeah, Sally keeps telling me to say I'd take 2 million sight unseen for the house. You should put a sign on the door reading no peddlers. Well, got a sign on the door. It doesn't help. And the other one is people of a religious nature who think that walking around randomly and knocking on doors to get people to believe in their imaginary sky daddy. Carol says, here it's mainly leaflets from estate agents. The calls are usually phone or internet. Yeah, exactly. You'll never buy it from someone on the street. We get a lot of stuff dumped in our letterbox from real estate agents as well. Dealers says, I like those services to give you a month's free trial and say they'll let you know before they take any money and then forget to. It's a scam. And to be honest with you, their service was kind of shit anyway. Yeah, middle-aged geek girl says, we get more estate agents than real religious people these days. Yeah. In a sense, they're probably the same thing, really, aren't they? They've got a profound belief in something that's not real. By the way, the fart gun is still waiting. Feeling very snug in my Vegemite hat today. Carol said, at some point, days after the sign went up, got told, can't you read? Fair enough. Particularly down your way. I mean, you guys are close to the ocean. So real estate people flock to the ocean like seagulls pinching chips. Peter says, my response to religious callers, I'm Jewish and don't believe me, I'll show you. Yeah, you can always get in trouble doing that. It's basically, I just go, no, go away. And I do it in my deep, scary voice. And they do. But yeah, we're drifted off. So, yeah, so I'm looking forward to the Nouvelle Vague. Has anyone seen the trailer for The Toxic Avenger with Peter Dinklage? The remake of Toxic Avenger. There's a trailer for it, and it's hilarious, and I love it, and I want to see it. Carol says, Dover is the cheapest housing locally. Middle-aged good girl seen the trailer for Dinklage as the Toxic Avenger. I like the makeup, too. The Toxic makeup is pretty damn good. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to that because that's my kind of movie. Dumb cult film with lots of gore. I'm there. Ramsar said, watch Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, which is a 3-hour miniseries about the UK postal scandal with the Horizon software ruined so many lives. Yeah, I'm amazed that actually prevailed. We've had our own scandals with the government using an algorithm to convince itself that people were ripping off our dole system, and people committed suicide over that one too. Carol says, nope, didn't know they were remaking it. Yeah, Toxic movie with Dinklage. You got to check out the trailer after the live stream. It's hilarious. Middle-aged Geeko says, don't the terrifying people have a hand in Toxic? Yeah, they do. And it's going to be fun. Hi, Franny. How you doing up there? Yeah, it's Robodebt was called. Yeah, Robodebt was what it was called when they ripped off people who were on benefits and sent them notices saying they owed thousands and thousands of dollars they didn't know, and they had to recompense people, and people had mental health issues. People committed suicide over it, particularly young, vulnerable people. It was done under a conservative government, of course, but it was monstrous. Carol says she loved the Toxic cartoon series, Earworm of a Tune. Yeah. Friday says the Toxic trailer looks awesome. It is. And, yeah, Dinklage's Toxic really worked. And, yeah, I'm there for that kind of thing. I'm waiting for the new Terrifier movie as well because I like the Terrifier movies. And, in fact, one of our nieces is a big Terrifier fan. And we're going over to see all that mob later today. Carol says, Jesus, that's awful. Now they say the program for Horizon was bad too. Yeah, I think there's going to be more of this stuff happen as AI and algorithms are used by lazy instrumentalities. I think there's still that potential for a lot of egregious shit to come down the pipeline. And we really should get on top of it before it becomes life-threatening for a lot of people. We really need to keep tabs on it. Peter says, Melbourne heard the Toxic Avenger lives. Reliance on technology is not always good. Trauma, the sign of quality, says Kane. Yeah, I'll tell you the thing, when you do a Google search and you get that AI summary at the start, if you want to search for, say, Pedro Pascal, right? What you do is you type in, not Pedro Pascal, but Pedro Pascal fucking. And if you do that, the AI thing doesn't come up. It's just a little tip there. Though you may well get some AI generated imagery you might not want. Yeah, Carol says trauma runs. Absolutely. Yeah, it does. It's I like trauma movies. I like Romeo and Juliet, where you got Lemmy from Motorhead doing iambic pentameter. I mean, that's lightning in a bottle, that. But yeah, occasionally I use ChatGPT to try to work out title prompts, and then I'll look at 20 things that ChatGPT comes up with, and I don't like any of them, but my mind comes up with an alternative that's much better. So I'll use it to that extent, as I hate all of these, here's a better one. My brain works that way with them. And the Science Fiction Saturday logo I've got that comes up at the start of the Science Fiction Saturday video, that image I generated with AI and then enhanced by myself. But I like it so much, the alien in the spacesuit just works for me, so I kept it. D. Lee says, don't do that Pedro Pascal search on your work computer. Yeah, don't. Middle-aged Giggle says, ChatGPT is good for writing lists on Etsy because of my skills in making the product. It's making the product, not the wording list. Yeah, I mean, text-based stuff I can understand to a certain extent. But again, it's just another tool that's available to us. Problem is that big companies are pushing, you must use this tool. This tool will make things better and easier. No, it will make it blander and quicker, but it won't make it better and more interesting, because large language models don't have any creativity and never will, probably, though I've been wrong about computer stuff before. I wrote an essay once back in the Usenet days. Remember when you had dial-up modems and Usenet was where you got stuff and communicated with people? And I was in a Usenet group, and it took forever for an image to download in those days. And I was in the Usenet group, and I clicked on an image to download it, and it was mislabeled, and it turned out to be abuse material. And I had an instant visceral reaction to it. I got nauseated instantly with that image. And I wrote an essay about it, saying, we probably can't do anything about this. It's probably always going to be a part of the internet. And I was dead wrong. But I remember that image and how profoundly nauseating it was to me. And ever since then, I've been very wary about certain things. Science Fiction Saturday Jazz Alien, it looks like a cool customer. Yeah, I love that image. And with the music and the special effects I put around the image, I think it's a combination of an artificially generated image with lots of enhancements by me. Middle-aged Giggle says the Trump AI in the end of the recent South Park episode was scarily realistic. Yeah, they actually had a guy in there to be the model for it, and then they AI enhanced it and did all of the stuff with it and trained the model on Trump to superimpose over the guy. And I think they used a hot dog or something. But yeah, internet stuff is still weird and still, full of cowboys and scammers and things like that. And we don't want that. We want, the internet ideally for us is the equivalent of a really cool cafe with great music, not at a high level, terrific food, terrific coffee, terrific drinks, terrific company. And there are 2 or 3 really smart people you can ask questions of. That's the ideal internet for me, is like a 50-acre cafe full of interesting things to go and take a look at, and interesting people to ask questions of, and interesting people to have a chat with. That's my cozy internet. I know a lot of people use it for work, and I understand that. But fortunately, the work I have now, being the channels, I can create that environment for myself and for the people who like my stuff, where it is a kind of cool cafe to hang out at, and it is a lot of fun, and it is quite groovy just to do that. In a sense, at its best, the internet is creating a cultural utopia, and a lot of the things we filter out and a lot of the things we block are things that interfere with that utopia. Brian says, got to watch Valerie's Week of Wonders, a couple of friends a few weeks ago, still processing that one. I've heard about it, but I don't know much about it, Franny. Give me a moment to just click on it. I've got a new wireless mouse, and I've got to remember that the way it saves battery life and it recharges via battery is the cursor freezes, and I've got to click on the cursor. I've got to click on the button once to make it reactivate. I've got that posted in a link now, Franny, so we'll check it out. Thank you. And it fits in with my month of art house films. And I'm still looking. I think I've got about 15 of the 31 art house films I need to have for this month. So anything like that people can suggest helps. Because for those who came in late, I've watched 4 art house films so far this year. I watched L'Avventura, I watched 8.5, I watched Eating Raoul, and I watched Bon Depart, Band of Outsiders. Peter says, couldn't agree more, internet cafe culture. Yeah. What do I think of Eating Raoul? I love Eating Raoul. I had it on VHS. I saw it in a midnight session at the Valhalla back in the day. I love Paul Bartel's work, and it's funny as hell. But it's also, because of the dominatrix in it is a sympathetic character, it's also sex worker and sex positive in a way. It's just that all of the people that Paul and Mary knock off are arseholes. It's not so much about knocking off horny people as knocking off assholes. Dalek Dibana says, Friday, it's a really beautiful film, not like anything I've seen before, like Witnessing a Dream. That's about Valerie's last week of wonders. I'm going to have to check that out now. I'm sure I can find a copy of it somewhere. In fact, I'm going to check out whether I can find a copy of it somewhere while I'm looking attentive. Yes, I can. FG says, Eddie Roll is one of my all-time favorites. It's so funny. Yeah, I got the Criterion edition of it. I actually paid out for that. Grantman71 says, how are you doing okay after PTSD during the week? I totally understand. Yeah, well, it came up unexpectedly. Because the traumas that caused my PTSD are, for the most part, way in the past. It doesn't pop up as much as it used to. But I was like half asleep and it all just flooded in. And it all hit me like it only just happened, which is how complex PTSD works. And it's shitty as hell. I just hate it. But I'm not going to rail against it. The approach I take, and I don't know whether this is useful to anybody else, is I acknowledge what it is. I do what I can to handle the symptoms as they are now, but I don't re-prosecute the trauma. And I've talked it over with my psychologist, and that's my best approach, is to comfort myself. And Sal helped out a lot too, to be honest with you. And just get through it. And it does seem to work. Hi there, Spondo. How you doing? Tom said, my artist friend Kim Deitch drew the Eating Rail comic book cover and story. Cool. Yeah, Eating Rail was just such fun. And I love it. It's a shame Paul Bartel died so early. It was just such a fun presence in cinema. But yeah, I'm on a really interesting trip with this month of art house film. And I'm really looking forward to all of it. Let's see what else I got on the list. Did you know there's a new Red Sonja movie coming out? Yeah, Red Sonja, the redheaded warrior woman who was part of Robert E. Howard's Conan stuff. And they made a movie with Brigitte Nielsen before she got chest implants. They're doing a new Red Sonja movie, and there's a trailer for it. Lots of swashbuckling, a big Harryhausen-style monster. And it stars Matilda Lutz, who was in Coralie Fargett's first movie, Revenge, and was brilliant in that. So I'm looking forward to that one as well. Carol said, PTSD is not nice. Glad you're doing better now. Thank you. I am. And Friday says, self-care is number one priority in such situations. It is. And I'm smart enough and I'm experienced enough to know that now. But it doesn't happen a lot. It doesn't happen to that extent. It hasn't happened in a few years. But it just came up in my head. And yeah, it is what it is. Let's have a look here. Don't have too much else on the list. Let's ask me some questions. We're at the ask me some questions stage of the day, in the second hour of things. FG says, any thoughts about Tim Burton remaking Attack of the 50-Foot Women with Margot Robbie? I like Margot Robbie. I'm hit and miss on Tim Burton. I think does it need to be remade? I much prefer Alison Hayes. I like the original. There was the Attack of the 50-Foot set involved. Giant Women is basically a fantasy for submissive men. But yeah, meh is probably my reaction to that Tim Burton remake. Friday says, didn't realise the other week the buckle in swashbuckling is a reference to a buckler shield. Yeah, it was. Fresh Butter says, Mary Warrenov and Robert Beltram also worked together in Night of the Comet. My favourite post-apocalyptic Christmas film. Yeah, they're also in Mary Warrenov and Paul Bartel are in Get Crazy as well. Alan Arkush's fabulous concert film with Malcolm McDowell playing a Mick Jagger character. And I love Get Crazy. It's my favourite New Year's Eve movie. Dalek Debando says, I'm watching Deathstalker 2. Have I seen it? I saw it a while ago, but I haven't seen it recently. Tom Stein says, "Get Crazy is wild." It is. Love Get Crazy. And I've got this pop-up, "Get out of my face," for some software I occasionally use. I'm going to have to get rid of it. But yeah, what are we going to do now? So questions. I'm waiting for questions. And I'm going to give you guys too much information. I accidentally took the wrong medication this morning. And one of the things I take for my slight heart condition is a diuretic. And it makes you go to the little boys' room more often than normal. And I accidentally took it this morning. So I'm going to be back in a moment. And I apologize. Bet that was fascinating for you. Middle-aged girl says, "I'm in a different room. How are the cats?" The cats are fine. Luna's being territorial and fighting with the neighbour's new cat. She is, because the neighbour's new cat's pissing on the back step. Ramzo said, "Watch The Pigeon Tunnel," about jean-luc. A very incisive and complex relationship with his father, the bankrupt con man and jailbird Ronnie Cornwell. Cool. Hi, Donna Pass Whiskey. "Do I have a favourite TV series from the US?" says Tom. I have about 50 of them. Probably It Takes a Thief with Robert Wagner is one of my old-time favourites. But there are things like Have Gun Will Travel I like a lot. I like Star Trek Strange New Worlds if you want something recent. Just too big a broader question. Peter says, "I just noticed you have Jerry Anderson's UFO on the shelf. What's your opinion of that series?" Yeah, I love it. I actually met Ed Bishop once at a convention in a quiet corner. He was just sitting quietly in a corner. Very nice guy. And also, it's that pivot for Jerry Anderson stuff where they're starting to do stuff for grown-ups. And there are a couple of episodes of UFO that really land well as human dramas. I like it. I've got it on the shelf. It's going to stay on the shelf. It's worthwhile, and it's worth rewatching. And I love the special effects work and the model work and all that kind of stuff. Ramzo says, "All my problems are behind you now." No, they've been in front of me. Franny says, "UFO was awesome. Slow but brilliant. Shame that season 2 was canned." Yeah. I think it's a series that just worked, and it brought enough weirdness. And the production design, the set design, the jumpsuits were a little bit of a thirst trap, but that's okay. And Benedict Cumberbatch's mum's in it as well. The season 2 pre-production became Space 1999. For me, Space 1999 is a lesser series than UFO. I think they didn't get the science fiction right of it, and too much of it was soft focus on Barbara Bain and Martin Landau. Project UFO stars the gorgeous Gabrielle Drake. Worth watching just for her, says Tom. Yeah, but she wasn't a good actress particularly. Fresh Pondo, I'm looking for some good UFO trivia questions. Do I have any fun facts? I'll give you one. UFOs don't exist. There's just stuff we don't know about. There's just so much weird shit talked about UFOs. All these people say they were kidnapped by UFOs or bonked by ghosts. There's a big intersection of belief in UFOs and mental illness in my book. Kayan says, "Are you any closer to a My Complete video collection?" It was never an ambition of mine to have that. I like finding newer things that I wasn't aware of. I mean, I had Love Ventura for years, and I only watched it this week, and it blew me away. I think as far as a video collection is concerned, it's a movable feast. It changes. There are things I used to like I don't like as much now, but I'm keeping for nostalgic reasons. There are new things I'm really profoundly happy with, like Sinners I love. Ryan Coogler is just the GOAT when it comes to making original cinema in America right now. And I don't think you have a complete series of carry-on movies and stuff like that. But it's not an emphasis that I put on my collection. I love finding new things. I love the fact that I'm lucky enough and in a position where Umbrella and Imprint send me things. And I find out about a lot of movies through the Umbrella in particular, where they'll do a Blu-ray or a 4K of something profoundly obscure that I end up really enjoying. Middle-aged cute girl says the UAP is now not UFOs. So responder says, I meant UFO series. Sorry for the lack of clarity. That's okay. I know that Ed Bishop kept the wig he wore in UFO and took it around to conventions. Friday says, how many people have listened to Gabrielle Drake's brother, Nick Drake, a fantastic tragic songwriter? Do look him up on YouTube. Incredibly moving music. Cool. But, I mean, the movie collection, I'm still awed by the fact that I have a movie collection, because in my youth, you couldn't effectively collect movies unless you were a millionaire. And then VHS came along, and of course, we had all the other iterations of physical media. But the fact, 20-year-old me will go in my back room where all the movies are, be totally blown away by the fact that I could own movies on physical things and play them and watch them. That still has a certain magic for me, because it's not an environment I grew up in. It's an environment that the tide of technology just filled for me. Grandma 71, what's the movie The Entity, an overhyped movie or just a run-of-the-mill suspense movie? I watched The Entity not too long ago, or at least I watched part of it, and I found it uncomfortable. And the idea of somebody being bonked being assaulted by a ghost or a supernatural entity. Why didn't they give that woman psychological help instead of indulging her traumatic hallucination? That's the thing that gets me. Double or triple header at the theaters next week. Naked Gun, The Bad Guys 2 together. No IMAX. Naked Gun hasn't turned up here in Australia. It comes out in about a week and a half. And I will go and see it, and I will review it. Middle-aged good girl says it was all fake. Yep. Lee Lavery, hi, Lee Yakida. We've got Super 8 versions of some films in the attic. Only problem is they're only 10-minute clips. Yeah. Yeah, middle-aged good girl says, and it's hard to watch The Entity. Yeah. I don't like the movie, to be honest with you. I think it's hard to say a movie's unnecessary, but I think it's exploitative in all the wrong ways. There are exploitation movies I love, and then there are movies like that. And I'm down to the end of the list almost. How about that? The last thing I want to talk about is I want to give a shout out to Dick, because older vloggers and YouTubers and people who put themselves out there, and there are any number of them, I really like the fact that they're there. There's a guy who travels around in trains in Sydney, and he's got to be like 75 or 80, and he just does travel vlogs about going to places on the train and having a cup of coffee and a sandwich with his wife, and then going home again. And I love the fact that there are people embracing new media at an advanced stage, such as myself. And I wanted to shout them out for being gutsy enough to do that, and for learning how to do that. And it is a big learning curve, as Dick will tell you. It's a big learning curve to learning this medium. But people do it, and people are thriving on it. And we should all encourage them, because it can't just all be 20-year-old guys who want to be Mr. Beast and who chuck in a whole bunch of CGI special effects and motion array filters. We've got to keep this democratic, and we've got to keep it diverse. And the more people who get on board at whatever age, the better, as far as I'm concerned. I just want to give a shout out to the people who've got the resources and the guts to put themselves out there, because you do put a target on your back at a certain age doing YouTube, and there will always be the snipers coming in. But you build a tough shell. And I wanted to shout out everybody who's got the guts to do that. Lee's going to give Naked Gun a go. I know Kermode slated it, though. I like Kermode, but I don't always agree with Kermode. So Responder says, still have my first VHS. At what age did I get my first player? Oh, how old? I would have been like nearly 30 when I got my first one, when I was my previous marriage. And we were living in Glebe, and we got a VCR. And it cost like $700 then for even just a basic one with our old CRT TV. And fortunately, I was living in Glebe at the time, and around the corner was a video warehouse that, amongst other things, sold off ex-rental VHS tapes for $5 each. And I quickly got an enormous collection of them. Doug Dabana says, Kermode isn't the reviewer he used to be. I like Kermode, but I like Kermode best when he's playing off somebody else. There was a recent thing he did at a festival where he's playing off a younger movie reviewer, and the magic's there. But he said, there isn't such classics, but I'm going to go with an open mind. Yeah, I want to see Naked Gun. Thresh Bonner says, thank you. My pleasure. But, yeah, I mean, I do like Kermode's stuff, but I don't always agree with him. I think he can be a bit bitchy at times, which I can as well, but I try to avoid it where I can. Peter says, there are several disabled soldiers, veterans who are on YouTube, and all say that it's changed their life. Great. I know there are a whole bunch of, there is a right-wing SAS, ex-SAS component on YouTube, and there are some really nasty pricks on that one who have actually threatened people who disagree with them. But there are, if it's helping out soldiers and veterans who are on YouTube and they're using it as a part of the healing process, I'm there for that. Middle-aged Geek Girl says, what movie best describes our relationship? None of them do, because we're unique. Dick says, yeah, it's been quite a learning curve doing the channel and videos, but with the kind of advice and support from people like yourself, it's been a fun adventure. Just do you. Really learn and grow with it, because it is a fascinating thing to do. And making connections across the planet is still a mind-blowing thing for me. D. says, I prefer the Police Squad TV series to the films because I remember the late 60s cop shows that was spoofing and it hit them perfectly. Yeah. Director Buenda says, Kermode hasn't been negative about a DEI-laden film. 5 years, he wasn't like that years ago. I don't like the emphasis you're putting on that, Director Buenda, to be honest with you. What's wrong with diversity, equity, and inclusion? What's your point there? Doug says, you're so right. My Man from Uncle audience is 90% boomers like me over 65, and we were out there, yeah. And you have a lot more time to sit around watching things as well these days. I think there's a big demographic here that aren't being acknowledged as much as they should be. And yeah, it's I never thought I would be doing this at this age. I never thought I'd be doing this anywhere. But the fact that it's now available, it feels like this is where I was heading, because I used to do fanzines and I talked on the radio for 13 years. And I did podcasts from 2007 onwards with Sal. Sal and I got 13 episodes of a podcast we did, which is on archive.org. And then I moved on to YouTube much later than I should have. I should have started YouTube 10 years earlier, but I didn't. And it's just such fun. Rams, I said, I got my first VHS player in 1985 and soon thereafter my first adult film on VHS. Between 1985 and 2000, I purchased about 1,100 VHS movies, which I eventually donated to charity in 2006. Yeah, I got rid of a lot of mine and donated them because they were taking up too much space, and then DVDs came in, and I kind of phased over to DVDs and then, of course, Blu-rays and 4Ks. And, I like physical media, as we all know. And I like the fact that I'm going to have it, but I acknowledge space considerations are a big consideration. Don't like that. It says, reflection on Kermode's insincerity to keep his job, nothing else. I don't know if that's true. I think Kermode has such a reputation in the industry that he'd keep his job anyway. There's nothing negative about diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's where we should be heading as a culture and as a planet. And I'm there for trans movies. I'm there for LGBTQIA plus movies in general. I'm there for every kind of movie that's inclusive. I want to hear other people's stories. I don't just want to hear white guy stories. I want to hear stories from everywhere. And as long as they're interesting, as long as they're honest, I'll embrace that every single time. And I won't have people say that diversity and equity and inclusion are a bad thing. That just dulls things off, didn't it? But it's interesting times we live in. Dalek said, some DEI films aren't any good. What's wrong with him saying it? He would if he believed it. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're Mark Kermode or just me shooting shit to a little camera. Here's your product. This is what the product is. It is your opinions and your honesty. That's the product all of us are touting and all of us are selling. And just zooming in and saying some DEI movies aren't good. I mean, some Matthew McConaughey movies aren't good. Even some Margot Robbie movies aren't good. Why focus in on that is my question. And middle-aged geek says some films in general aren't any good. I mean, there are three kinds of movies. And William Goldman said this in Adventures of the Screen Trade. There are movies that aspire to being good and fail. There are movies that aspire to being good and succeed. And there are cash cow movies that weren't meant to be good at all. They were just meant to be successful. And those are the metrics I use. Tom says it's painting with a wide brush to condemn these movies. Yeah, I see your point there, absolutely. But for me, one thing I don't try to do with movies or anything else is punch downward. And in current culture in the United States, in the UK and in other places, people of non-binary sexuality or non-traditional sexuality or non-traditional genders are in a fragile state and they are endangered by the actions of groups of people and governments. And I will be an ally because I have been since the 1980s, and I will always call out punching downward. Friday says, if you want to protest DEI, you have to say it in full: diversity, equity, and inclusion. I agree. Dialect abando, you don't have any evidence for Kermode's motives. Friday says, likewise, if you want to complain about political correctness, you have to replace that phrase with treating people with respect. Absolutely, Friday. Coming from a very working class background, and coming from a background where the zeitgeist of the era I grew up in allowed me to be abused physically and psychologically. I'm not somebody who puts up with that kind of bullying. Lee says, we're fighting back here in Wales. Good, Lee. And my good friend Cheryl Morgan is part of that too. Cheryl and I have known each other for 30 years. I went to Tijuana with Cheryl. We had a shared birthday party, and she is very big in the Welsh trans support network. And I learned a lot from people like Cheryl, and I learned a lot from a number of other people. But it saddens me that people have to punch downwards in life. Dick says, had William Goldman's book years ago, and you need to find another copy of it to give it a reread. Absolutely, Dick, it's fantastic. And the other book he did, which is Which Lies Did I Tell, is an update on that as well. Friday says, Kermode does criticise movies that are too heavy-handed in their messaging, but not the ideas they're messaging. I'll agree with that, Friday, because I watch Kermode on YouTube. And yeah, I can disagree with him, but I can see where he's coming from, even if I think he's wrong-headed on it. It's like going further back. I've got a whole bunch of the books of essays by Pauline Kael, and I disagree with Pauline Kael as much as I agree with her. But I respect her approach on things and where she's coming from. She was one of the first people to celebrate trash cinema in the 1960s and trashy movies like Valley of the Dolls, and seeing that there was a virtue in their crazy awkwardness and things like that. We really need to stop hating. I mean, yeah, I don't like Star Wars and I don't like Baz Luhrmann movies, but it's a distaste for them that I have. It's not a hatred. And it's we've got to be better people and not let assholes turn us into assholes. Ramzar said, I'll be watching a lot of Japanese movies from the 50s on HBO Max in August. Floating Weeds, Ugetsu, Redbeard, Sancho the Bailiff. You're going to have a good August. Those movies are great. Lee says, Cheryl is such an amazing person. She is. Cheryl and I, she was born one day after I was. And so we always send joking birthday messages to each other. There's a lot of love there, and she is a great person. Hunter Scale says, have I seen the second season of Warfall? What do I think to exclude non-historical actors? Haven't seen it. Haven't seen the first season. I'm kind of watching less series these days because they will suck up too much of my time. Middle-aged Geek Girl says, as a casual movie viewer, I personally never take the work of reviewers, critics when they come to movies I want to watch. Absolutely. It's you don't take my word for things. And then years later, you'll watch them and say they were good. But then that's part of our relationship. But Baz Luhrmann's Star Wars remake is an idea this time has come, says D. Lee. Won't watch it. I'll tell you what, I am amused by one thing on Star Wars. People tell me Andor is a really good series, and I'm very, very willing to believe them. The idea that it took 38 years to come up with a good Star Wars intellectual property amuses the shit out of me. 38 years. It's taken them that long. Was it 38? It's got to be more than that. Let's see, 1977. 58 years. It's taken them that long. Patrick says, it's scary to me how much today echoes the conflict of the early 70s, anti-Vietnam peace movement. There's a lot of that kind of zeitgeist about it, isn't there? And I love the passion and the compassion of young people processing things. We had a march of 100,000 people across the Sydney Harbour Bridge yesterday to protest the situation in Gaza. And if I was in Sydney, I would have been there. There was one in Melbourne, but I had things to do. But those protests matter. And the passion of youth, I love, particularly when it comes to equity and politics. Boomer Duck says, Camry, I'm a Welsh-born Aussie. Cool. More than half of my genetics come from Wales because of my mum's side of the family and a part of my father's side of the family from Wales. Peter says, Orlando, based off of Julia Wolf's novel, is a good DEI film. Quentin Crisp as Elizabeth I, yeah, and Tilda Swinton as Orlando. A great film. It's very tongue-in-cheek and very funny. I love Orlando. Romans, I said, what's the beef with Baz Luhrmann, the person subjective? My beef with Baz Luhrmann is he's obvious. He thinks he's being outrageous and fabulous, but he's obvious. And he dumbs down. He's like the Andrew Lloyd Webber of movie makers. Florian says, Art House recommendation of Draftsman's Contract. That's a good one. I've got a copy of that on DVD. Took a while to find the Draftsman's Contract. I've got a few things that are coming up on that list that are really I'm going to enjoy. I am saving Black Orpheus for when I need it because I will watch that. But I keep remembering what I've got in the back room that's Art House and then taking it out to the coffee table so that I can watch it. I was a bit scared of doing a month of Art House, to be honest with you. But getting into it and realizing I can keep it diverse. I don't have to just be watching serious and meaningful movies when I say Art House. I'm less scared, but that it was to do this month. And it's not going to be the only movies I'll watch, but they're going to be 31 of them. One of the Art House movies I'm going to watch was sent to me last week by Umbrella. And this one's going on the list. Control, the one about the guy from Joy Division. I'm going to be watching that one as part of the Art House. And I'm looking forward to that too because I know nothing about it. Tom says, have I seen Black Narcissus? Yeah, I've got Black Narcissus on Blu-ray. Fantastic film. And there's just such a repressed sexual tension in that film. Incredible. And I think Black Narcissus is going to be in the Power Pressburger box set that Imprint do as well. But that's the nice thing about it, us being right where we are in history. We've got 120 years of backfilling of movies to watch if we want to. The silent stuff. I mean, Metropolis is now in public domain, by the way. If you want to download a copy of Metropolis from anywhere, the 1926 version, A, don't do the one with the Giorgio Moroder soundtrack. But B, you can do it guilt-free because it's now in public domain, as is Nosferatu, the original, not the Robert Eggers version. But yeah, Black Narcissus is terrific. I might well add that to the Art House list as well. Any movies that people are looking forward to? Because I'm aware of the nostalgia trap and I'm as susceptible to it as anybody is. But is there anything new that you're looking forward to watching? Because, I mean, I'm looking forward to the Naked Gun movie because a meathead movie like that I'm going to enjoy the shit out of. And Liam Neeson is great because he's just in that Leslie Nielsen position in his career right now. And yes, I know that he did ruin one of my travel vlog videos because they were doing a car stunt on Altona Pier. And I couldn't do a video on Altona Pier for a couple of weeks because of Liam Neeson. Lee says there might be a shake-up next year in the Senate. I hope so, because Dalek Wonder said looking forward to Alien Earth. I might watch it, but I'm not enthused about it. But yeah, fair enough. Okay, and says if only Rowan Atkinson was younger, he was a spitting image for Ian Curtis. Though it would be essentially be Mr. Bean fronting Joy Division. Yeah. And Middle Age Gigo says Liam Neeson's, which is a Key and Peele reference. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Control. There's a couple of things I'm looking forward to. Got sent a great batch of movies from Umbrella, but I'm saving that for Wednesday's video. Boomer Doug says Zabriskie Point is an art house movie I love, but didn't really understand with Rod Taylor. Yeah, I was thinking of doing Zabriskie Point this month because there's another Antonioni film, but very different from La Ventura and L'Eclisse, which I am watching as well. Frankenstein, yeah, Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein looks interesting with Jacob Elordi playing the monster and Oscar Isaac playing the doctor. Guillermo del Toro, I'll watch anything he does. I think the guy's got such a keen horror sensibility that he's a treasure, and he will not do things the way other people would do them. And even if you go back to his first film, Kronos, which is a really unusual vampire movie, that one's a banger, and you should check it out. Patrick Seymour says, new films, probably Supergirl, old films, The Bitter Tea of General Yen, trying to find that. A bit hard to find. Doug, you're right, Liam Neeson is such a perfect choice for Naked Gun. And I kind of like the fact that Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson are now dating. It's good to see an actor who's not getting a girlfriend who's 30 years younger than him. He's not DiCaprio in that. And they've been on a red carpet together and they look quite cute with each other. So all strength to them. The fact that Pamela Anderson's not wearing makeup these days, she's made choices that I think are kind of interesting and incredibly valid. Still time for super chats. I do have the fart gun here, primed and ready to go, fresh batteries in it. Yeah, that's something I do on the channel. I don't know whether anyone's noticed because nobody notices what I do. I'm always saying England when I mean England. I'm not saying Great Britain or the United Kingdom or anything like that, because I'm a big supporter of Scottish and Welsh independence. And I never use honorifics. I don't use sir this or dame of that or lady that, because I don't believe in honorifics. So that's something I always do on the channel. D. Lee says, The Cook, the Thief, and Wife and Her Lover is a Peter Greenaway film that really hit home, mainly because it's commentary on the 80s greed. I've got that. I've got the Umbrella release of that. So that could be another one. Doug says, the Hellboy movies are great. I want to see the new one. Franny has the same fart gun next to me. Yeah, the fart gun is for super chats, Franny. So I'm only using it wisely. But yeah, fart gun's great. I do also have a Mars Attacks ray gun that Cheryl Morgan gave to me for my birthday. But yeah, this is such a nice live stream. I like where it's going. I like everybody's contribution. Even when I disagree with them, I like the contributions on this one. And I'm going to keep doing them every fortnight because they are just fun. And they also keep me active mentally. There's more intellectual oomph to doing a live stream for 2 hours than people might suspect. It is a challenge. And at this stage, I like challenges as long as I'm the one who sets the challenge. Like when I walked from Werribee to Melbourne, and it was, 58 kilometres in 9 stretches. I love challenges these days. And I think that's where I'm going with things. And I've got to work out my next couple of walks because they're just such fun to do. Patrick, $1.99 US. You've got to hear that gun. And I'll give you a sideways one as well, Patrick. Thank you. The fart gun is marvelous. The fart gun rules. Why did I say gun? Gun. Tom was a Mars Attacks kid back when the trading cards came out in 1962. The trading cards are great. I love them. The goriness of them is fantastic. Friday says, biggest regret on film merchandise I didn't buy. Mine is not buying the talking Edna mode. That would have been interesting. Really a lot of fun. I've got a broken Zuni fetish doll from Trilogy of Terror here, which I have to repair. The neck and various bits of it are broken, but I should work on that soon. Ramsar says, don't know about Australia, but over here in LA, we get old movies in theatres to watch The Fall, 2006, last October. Must be seen on large screen. In August, we're getting Shin Godzilla. We do get them occasionally. I go to the Astor and I saw Looking for Mr. Goodbar, most recently at the Astor, and the whole audience was silent at the end of the film. It was just like, oh, obviously for the violent scene at the end of the film. But that was great fun. Found a copy in a charity shop recently. Cool. What do you mean again, middle-aged geek girl? I'm not sure of the context of this. What about the Spinal Tap sequel? I don't mind the Spinal Tap sequel. I think these guys have got their heads screwed on right. And it looks really fun, even though it's got Paul McCartney in it. And yeah, I'm there for a Spinal Tap sequel. And I like Spinal Tap. In fact, my next Spotify playlist I put out for channel members and Patreon supporters is going to have a couple of Spinal Tap songs in it. The Zuni fetish doll being broken. I fixed it once already. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened with it. It fell off the stand, but we're going to fix it. I will do that. I've got it in a box up on the shelf. It keeps knocking on the lid, but I'm ignoring it. But yeah, Zuni fetish dolls, wonderful stuff. Everybody should have one. Peter says, Palace Nova shows a lot of old movies. Saw The Creature from Black Lagoon here in Adelaide. Nice. Was it in 3D or the 2D version, Peter? But yeah. What am I saying next? Invisible Man and The Invisible Man Returns are the October releases by Cinemaniacs here in Melbourne at the Astor. And I think I've convinced a middle-aged geek girl to come and see it with me. So we're going to go see the original Invisible Man in the cinema, which I think will be groovy to do. And there are a couple more at the end of the year. 2D, but excellent. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of fun. The ideal thing to do would be to wear a mask and snorkel while you watch it. I think that'd be the cosplay to do for the Creature from the Black Lagoon. You can go as Richard Carlson. Getting a bit parched here. What's this Johnny Depp to Hyde thing I saw on YouTube recently? Yeah, Johnny Depp's going to play Mr. Hyde. It's going to be from Mr. Hyde's viewpoint. Sounds almost like his court case with his ex-wife, doesn't it? Where the nasty prick is trying to justify his behaviour. I think in a really messed up sense, that's dream casting. But yeah, Johnny Depp I've got no time for. I think I know the companies he employed to discredit his ex-wife are basically companies set up to discredit ex-wives. And that in itself, the fact that they exist, companies that are there in celebrity marriage breakups to discredit the other partner, are companies that shouldn't exist. And you make you want to go beekeeper on them. You know, when Statham walks into the call center with 2 jerry cans full of petrol, those kind of companies need 2 jerry cans full of petrol. We're getting towards the end. Sitting in a living room with swimming trunks and snorkel, watching The Creature from the Black Lagoon. When wife walks in, why do you see me do worse? Yep, the old Iron Man line. I watched Iron Man 3 again last month. The one that Shane Black wrote. And that still lands. I like Iron Man 3. It's a movie that humanizes Tony Stark in a way the other two didn't. And it's got the virtue over Iron Man 2 of not having Elon Musk in it. Yeah, I won't get you started on Marvel middle-aged geek girl. You need to move along with this. Okay, it says, Johnny Depp makes me laugh when he's trying to be a rock star. He spends more time getting the look right than he does playing the guitar. Johnny Depp is a damaged person. He's unfortunately, alcohol is his vice, and he's just not somebody I like as a person, and I never did really. He was even facile on 21 Jump Street. Ramsar said, my MC Theatre at the Grove is showing Sunset Boulevard on the big screen tonight for its 75th anniversary. A good movie ruined by a musical. Tom says, haven't seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang with Robert Downey Jr. and the great Val Kilmer. Yeah, I love Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. It's a lot of fun. It's funny as hell. It's really, it takes apart a whole bunch of Hollywood action film tropes in the best possible way. And it's kind of like The Nice Guys. If I was going to do a double feature, it'd be Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and The Nice Guys. There's a new edition of The Nice Guys out where my friend Nadine Whitney's done an essay for it. And we made a whole bunch of Nice Guys jokes online when we were talking about it. D. Lee says, OMF3 shows a superhero suffering trauma as a result of the superheroics. You don't get it often. Absolutely, it is. And that's what makes it better. It's grounded. And it does say there's a price to doing this, as any active service soldier knows. And it didn't play into Marvel's mythology, which I think is why Shane Black hasn't been asked to do another one again. But Shane Black is just such an underrated creator, and he knows action genre better than anybody, with the possible exception of Denis Villeneuve. I would love to see a Shane Black 007 movie. That would kick ass. Middle-aged girl said, I finally watched Captain America Brave New World because Harrison Ford was in it. Took an hour and a half to show Red Hulk, and he was only on screen for 10 minutes. Do you know how much work it takes to make Red Hulk? You can't have him there for the whole movie. Boomer Doug says, I love Beekeeper very much. Wish fulfillment. Yeah, The Beekeeper. I like The Beekeeper. Didn't like the one after that. What was it? A Something Man with Statham in it. What was it? Peter, let the farts run free. Thank you, Peter. There we go. We got more farts in. The Working Man, yeah. I think it was kind of by the books, Statham, which is a bit of a pity. Yeah, Working Man. Yeah, there are bits of it I liked, but it's no more than okay, which is disappointment because I do like Statham's movies. I think that tongue-in-cheek that's always there with his stuff works. Middle-aged giggle says more farts for $10. I'm keeping the fart going for all the live streams in future, by the way. The super chats pay for the batteries. 8 minutes left, so ask me anything. We're here, personal, movie-related, don't care. Ask me anything for the next 8 minutes. Not you, middle-aged geek girl, because you always ask me things. Friday said, I love him in Spy. Yeah, I mean, Statham's a guy who can not take his persona seriously, and I always respect that. Where are you on the which is best, Fantastic Four or Superman internet buzz? I can like both. I don't think movies have to compete with each other in my head. Yes, in a corporate level, obviously I do, but I enjoyed Superman. I enjoyed Fantastic Four First Step. I can enjoy them both without making it a wrestling match. If you like them, you like them. I recommend people give them a go. They both got a lot of virtue to them. Ken says, just keep Russell T Davies or Mark Gatiss away from 007. If you want good Mark Gatiss, his series Bookish, which has just come out, I think it's 3 episodes or 6 episode series about a bookseller in post-war London. You should see Bookish. It's a really good historical crime series. There is a season 2 coming out as well. Delecta Bunda says Superman's far superior in my opinion. Yeah, go like that. Do I have a favorite Santos movie? I watched one of them, the one with the vampire women, and for some reason it didn't engage me. I'm not sure why. Carol says I can make those noises without a gun. So can I, but then I've got to sit in the room for the next 6 minutes. But yeah, the gun. I love my gun. Patrick says, I think Superman was a better comic book movie, but Fantastic Four was a better movie overall. I like the ensemble in Fantastic Four. I think those 4 actors play off each other really, really well. I think there's a real lot of work gone into making it not feel like all the other Marvel movies. And yes, it is going to roll into Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret War, and I'm good with that. I like standalone movies that build the characters, and then suddenly you get the big ensemble movies. I'm good with that. Boomer Doug says, what's my favorite hat? The next one. I don't know what the next one's going to be, but I'm just like them all. In fact, I've got an enormous hat tree here with all of the summer caps on it. And every now and then I'll go to Temu or somewhere and buy more beanies and buy more baseball caps and things like that. But we live in such a rich time for movies as well. If you like comic book movies, you got a shit ton of them. If you like dramas, if you like to see diversity and inclusion and equity, you can have that. Doug says Bookish is on HBO Max in Australia. Yeah, Bookish is good. It really is. It lands, the last episode completes an arc and lands an interesting premise for the second series. I'm not doing spoilers. Where do I get the Unlimited Edition hat? I got it from Temu because I can get cheap hats. Art house movie Chen is Missing from 1982 by Wayne Wang. Thank you, Emmy. I'm going to open a tab on that. So just let me fart around with the mouse because I'm keeping tabs open on these things. Thanks for that. Let's have a look here. Dalek Banda says Patrick Seymour, the second and third of Fantastic Four is great, but the third was a shit show. Been chopped to hell and really nerfed Galactus. I think my take on Galactus in Fantastic Four First Steps is Galactus hadn't had a real fight back in a million years. And so suddenly these tiny little ants on a tiny little planet he doesn't care about suddenly find imaginative ways to fight back, like Johnny Storm blinding him so they can do the switch on the bassinets. All this kind of challenging stuff is the reason why it feels like Galactus is nerfed. But more than anything, Galactus is surprised. And when Galactus's herald turns against him, that surprises him too, because the herald doesn't do that. It's all about doing the unexpected and overcoming an adversary immensely more powerful than you are. And I kind of like that. Brian says, Bookish is great. 6 episodes, 2 episodes with story. Loved it. I'm glad there's going to be a season 2. Me too. Bookish works. And it's I'm looking forward to the second series, to be honest with you all. It's just a small series, but I mean, I like Book as a character. I like his wife. I even like the guy they hire to work in the bookshop, who stays true to the worldview of immediate post-war England in some really tragic but interesting ways. Dalek Bender says, they're nerfing most monsters and heroes, unfortunately. We can agree to disagree. I think they're humanizing them, which is a different thing. Mark Gatiss is reviving the Christmas Ghost Story adaptation. Good. I like what he does. I know not everybody likes Mark Gatiss, particularly Doctor Who fans, and yeah, fair enough. I'm not a Doctor Who fan. For me, Doctor Who is just like another fucking wizard with a magical wand. And so I'm not particularly in love with that. Never was. But again, it's one of those things where there is a welded-on fan base who express strident opinions. Nearly midnight here in the UK, and Ben is calling. Have a great week, Terry, Sally. Thank you, Carol. Thanks for you and Dick being part of this. And get some sleep, because it's time to almost finish. We've got less than a minute to go, which means we really must knock that naughty clock that says it's time to go. It goes so fast, our time has passed, and we must end our show. Kayan says, it's almost midnight in Ireland. It's bank holiday. I have time to watch one film, Twisted Nerve or Voices. Twisted Nerve, Kayan. Go with Twisted Nerve. Captain Laser says, oh my God, I missed it. Yes, you have. Keep well, Delete. Keep well, everybody. Look after yourselves. Bit of comfort, bit of love. Don't punch downwards. Always punch upwards, and don't let the bastards grind you down. Yeah, Dick's still here. I think the stream's ending anyway, mate. So you can go and snuggle in the bed. Thanks, Friday. Take care of yourself and keep fighting the good fight. And there we go. It's 9 o'clock, so I'll catch you guys later. We've got stuff to do. And take care of yourselves and be kind to each other.